What's going on, folks? Ted from Immersion here, and I've done my fair share of DM screen reviews in the past. So I wanted to review the Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen DM screen. Now, this is not, as far as I know, going to be sold separately in any way. Currently, the only way to get it is if you buy the deluxe edition of this, and that comes with the limited edition shiny cover of the Shadow of the Dragon Queen, the Warriors of Krynn board game, and then right here in the middle, the DM screen, a Dungeon Master screen found only in this deluxe edition for use with your D20 adventures. So I thought this would be a great opportunity to go ahead and take a look at it. And how does it stack up with the other DM screens? Again, if you're trying to just go for the collect 'em all mentality, you'll likely end up getting it when you buy the deluxe edition. But if you're really just in the look, in it for a DM screen, is it worth it? Well, here is the art, right? You can kind of get a good look. I actually very much like the art, and it is very kind of understated, and I think I really like that. It is very clearly the War of the Lance, right? You can see there are, over here, you can see there are like dragons in the sky, and there's obviously all these things on fire, which is really cool. But what do we have inside? So, first panel, this one right here, nothing new, right? Okay, this is concentration here, suffocating rolls, and exhaustion. This is standard stuff we see on most DM screens. How cover mechanics work, light sources and what generates them, lightly obscured versus heavily obscured, travel pace. This doesn't come up too often, but I have seen it appearing more recently. Encounter distance. So this is based on the type of terrain, jungle, mountains, whatever, the number of feet when you enter an encounter, how far away you are from the start of the encounter, which is something I often don't think about when I do random encounters. More often than not, like, the party is in the encounter, whereas in theory they could be anywhere from 2d6 times 10 feet to 66 times 10 feet away. We have the audible distance, right? How far away you can hear things. Again, not too common in these DM screens, although I have seen it more as of late, right? How far away it is. I think I actually started to see these in the Spelljammer stuff, at least the encounter distance, but that was obviously different for space-related things. Visibility outdoors, how far you can see, which could potentially be useful. And then skills and their associated ability checks. Does anybody even use that? Because the fact that you can kind of just malleably change what skill or ability score is tied to a specific skill, I think you could probably lose that and give us something a little bit better. Conditions. We got a whole panel to give us the conditions. It's the same conditions that we've seen since, I will say they've gotten a lot better. The Gale Force 9, I think the Horde of the Dragon Queen screen had conditions take up 2 full panels of the DM screen. I'll give them a little credit because it was the first kind of 5th edition adventure, so maybe that was new concepts to people. At least they kept the conditions, although with the exception of exhaustion levels being over here, they managed to keep... actually, the exhausted isn't on here. This is where exhaustion comes in, is just right over here. So I guess one tiny little sidebar in an entire panel to cover all of the conditions for 5th edition. All right, then our inside panel here, we have some stuff new, some stuff old, right? Setting a DC, that's pretty old. Tracking DCs, which I don't recall too often, like what kind of survival checks to make, what affects the tracking, fresh prints, dirt, mud, whatever. Damage level and severity, object hit points, and object armor class. That's pretty standard. Now here, this piece, the big meat and potatoes of this is new, and this is specific to this adventure. So we have War Zone Encounters, and it says, roll on the Dragon Army Encounter, Calaman Region Encounter, or Northern Waste Encounters table, as appropriate to generate random encounters or choose encounters you like. Creatures marked with an asterisk appear in Dragonlance Shadow of the Dragon Queen. The rest are described in the Monster Manual. Encounter creatures are hostile unless otherwise noted. If a humanoid has no specified race, it can be any race of your choice. And then it is not even a direct, 25. It is percentile, but there are all 3. Like, this is 1, 2, 3. So it is all 3 different encounter tables are all right here. I would have liked to have seen these be expanded at least to 25 options east, 25 options each. Because some of these, I mean, for like the middle encounter, it's 44 to 55 is one of the rolls, right? So I would have loved, 25. I mean, I obviously would have loved if it was 100 encounters for each, but that's, I guess, a lot to ask for. And, if it's Dragon Army encounters, I'm just looking at it. It could be a variety of different Draconians, Skeletal Knights and Horses, Priests of Takesis, stuff like that. I don't want to get too much into it because I don't think any of this is actually going to spoil it for anybody, but just to play it safe. Then the Northern Wastes encounters, we have things from crabs and spiders to scouts and things of that nature. Also some terrain-based encounters, which is pretty cool. And then the Calaman region, again, a similar thing. And all of them have the option, other than the Dragon Army encounter, to roll on the Dragon Army encounter table. And then again, the Calaman region, I see things commoners, ogres, wyverns, etc. And then here on this last panel, right here, we also have some art of all of the different kinds of Draconians, which is nice. It's also small. I just hit myself in the face with that. It's also small so that it doesn't actually overpower and you can get a decent amount of text. This is Dragon Army Supplies and Prisoners. This is Dragon Army Caravan Contents, Army Supplies, Army Prisoners. So it says, roll on the Dragon Army Caravan Contents, Dragon Army Supplies, or Dragon Army Prisoners table to determine what the Dragon Army holds in locations like supply caravans and encampments. If directed to roll on the table multiple times, duplicate results indicate the site has more of the same type of supplies and/or prisoners. If containers or prisoner restraints are locked, at least one soldier, typically an officer, has the key. The character using Thieves' Tools can unlock a container with a successful DC 20 dexterity check. Prisoners have an initial attitude of friendly unless otherwise noted, or unless you determine otherwise. So for the contents table, it is a D12. This is for a caravan, right? It says to roll on the supplies table. Could be some war horses, and then other options are multiple rolls on the supply table, or possibly the prisoner table, or both. The supplies, we have everything. It's mostly mundane stuff. You're not, if you're looking for magical stuff, you're really not going to get it here. Swords, armor, banners, some valuables, intel, information, ballista bolts, and then the biggest one is it might have an egg, which could be a variety of different creatures. And then the prisoners, you have everything from like acolytes of a god, commoners, spies, but then even things like mages and minotaurs. So there you go, folks. Is it worth it? Well, the fact that you can't pick it up standalone in any form kind of makes it a little bit of a hard selling point for me. But as far as it goes, this is one of the better done DM screens for an adventure, right? It has 2 panels, more or less, or 2.5 or so, giving you general DM information. Like I said, there are some things that I feel are pretty legacy, like the whole what ability score is tied to what skill. I feel like for the most part, we all know this at this point. But having the random encounter tables in there is nice. That's always something good to have. I often have said, and I don't know if I've ever said it on this channel, but you can basically run an entire campaign with nothing but a loose thread of a story and a good random encounter table. And if I haven't said that before on the channel, this is me saying it for the first time, because that's how I've run campaigns in the past. I have my general overarching storyline that I have loose threads here and there that could go different ways, and then a really solid random encounter table that could possibly tie into it or possibly not, and then the game can kind of be infinite. And I like to have 100 different encounters for my encounter table, and then we just go from there. So either way, it's a nice to have if you're buying the Deluxe Edition. I wouldn't say go out of your way to buy the Deluxe Edition just to get the screen. So anyway, folks, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.